It's been 4 months since my last recent Vinyl Finds video, so I guess I'm overdue. I'm going to do that today, and I'm also going to talk about how in Canada, HMV is back, so stay tuned. Hey everybody, welcome to Northern Revolutions. I'm Rob. Welcome back if you're returning. Welcome if you're new. New Vinyl Finds. I have not done one of these in months. I didn't realize I hadn't done one of these in months. I guess I got busy doing other videos. And I didn't think that I had picked up a lot of records in the last while, but I guess I picked up more than I thought I did. So I'm going to share some of the highlights with you today. Hope you find it interesting. I don't really remember when I picked these up, so they're not in chronological acquisition order by any means, but I picked this up at an antique mall. I've mentioned that I am on a big Springsteen kick. I am absolutely loving the early period from, Asbury Park up through, Tunnel of Love. That's where I focused on to start, and it is all amazing. I was at a local antique market a couple months ago, and I'd been looking for this. This is Bruce and the E Street Band live from 75 to 85. And I can't recommend it enough. And I picked this up for 20 bucks. Yeah, there's been some price tags on here over the years that has wrecked the cover of this, unfortunately. The LPs are flawless. The sleeves in it are fine. So for 20 bucks, it's great. Would I like to upgrade this down the road to have a cleaner box? Of course I would, and I'll keep an eye out for one. But I just wanted to listen to the music. Love the boss. Love live stuff. So I think this is just awesome. To say that I'm thrilled with this would be an absolute understatement. Next up is an album that I didn't think would actually ever happen. This is the new album by the Sadies. I've talked about the Sadies before. I don't think I've talked about them enough though, because they're incredible. They've been around 30 years. They're I'll call it alt country band from Toronto. They're sort of cosmic cowboys. It's like psychedelic country would be the best way to describe it. But they can also play anything. They joined force with a couple other guys and did a rock album. There's a group called The Unintended. They've backed Nico Case. They did some blues albums. They backed Gord Downie from the Tragically Hip. They've done a ton of stuff. But when they're doing their own stuff, it's incredible. I love the Sadies. I've seen them many times. Unfortunately, last year, Dallas Good, the lead singer, one of the two brothers that founded this band, passed away very unexpectedly. So they've been touring as a three-piece. Never thought that there would be a new Sadies album. But they surprised us this summer. The three remaining Sadies partnered with a guy named Rick White, who they had been in The Unintended with. Rick White is a big fan of the Sadies. In fact, he did a Sadies covers album, which I also have that's amazing. So Rick White has stepped in as the new vocalist, at least on the album. So this is Rick White and the Sadies. And it is everything you would expect from the Sadies with a tinge more rock to it. It is phenomenal. It sounds like the cover looks, if that makes any sense. This isn't going to show up on camera, I don't think. It's on this kind of swampy green vinyl that actually matches, but I guess it probably looks black on the cover. So if you want some kind of like psychedelic country, this is amazing. You can laugh at this one if you want. I don't care. This is Taylor Swift's World Tour Live. This was from the Speak Now World Tour. It was put out on CD in, I don't know, whenever the Speak Now World Tour would have been a decade ago at this point, I think. Was never actually released on vinyl. This is a unofficial release. But they've done a great job of making it look like an official release. They have duplicated the packaging from the CD, and it looks high quality. The records are gold vinyl. Notice those sleeves from Vinyl Storage Solutions. So a good Taylor record from the early, country pop Taylor. So I'm this is never going to see its light of day officially because she's not with Big Machine Records anymore. But I'll take this unofficial release. It sounds great. And this is an album I'm crazy excited about. I don't know if I've shown this before or not. This is the new album, Blame My Ex, from the Beaches. The Beaches. Beaches are a female rock band from Toronto. God damn, these girls are amazing. Blame Brett is the single that is making waves. These girls are touring the world right now. They just opened for the Stones a while back. They've done all the late night talk shows and that. They are a kick-ass, awesome girl rock band. Thrilled to finally track one of these down in the wild. Blue vinyl. Straight up rock and roll. Awesome. I know Sam and I have talked about this a lot. This is the new album from Mike Campbell and the Dirty Knobs, Vagabonds, Virgins, and Misfits. Obviously Mike Campbell from the Heartbreakers with Tom Petty. This is his project he's done since Petty's passing. This is their third album. I think it's their best. I can't quite put my finger on why. I just like the songs in here better. If you like Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, you'll probably like this because Mike Campbell sounds a lot like Tom Petty. He's not like an impersonator, but they have that similar Gainesville, Florida drawl. So, but it's good electric rock, some bluesy influence in there, some garage rock influence. And if you like the way Tom Petty sounds, you'll like the way Mike Campbell sounds in this. I can't recommend this record enough. One of my favorite records of 2024 for sure. I've talked about this artist a lot. And I don't know if I've shown this on one video or not yet, but if I have, oh well, sorry. Amanda Marshall's Tuesday's Child. Amanda Marshall, I'm a huge fan of. This is her second album from 1999. She's been away from music for 20 years and just within the last couple of years relaunched her career. They reissued her first album. This is her second album, Tuesday's Child. There are some absolutely phenomenal songs in here. She kind of sounds, as I've said before, like Sheryl Crow with some soul. Incredibly powerful voice. If I could recommend one song in here, there's a song called Love Lift Me, which is incredible. But there was other hits on here like Believe in You, Why Don't You Love Me, Too Little Too Late, Ride. Yeah, it's a phenomenal record. This is the limited edition version off her web store that's blue. When I found out that this album was being reissued, I pre-ordered it right away. Firehouse. Does everybody remember Firehouse? This came out in 1990. You know, it's that late 80s hair metal, if you will. You can see the fellas on the back there. I mean, they kind of sound Bon Jovi-ish, I guess. I can't remember. I think Love of a Lifetime was the hit they had that played endlessly. So this has been repressed by I don't know who, but it's on this cool fire vinyl. The original of this is shockingly hard to find. And my wife, who has a talent for finding incredibly rare records, she picked one up at a flea market for $10. And she's got an original. It's funny though, because 1990 quality of vinyl was not great. I mean, it is thin. But anyway, it's remastered and repressed for the first time. So thrilled to have this album. This is a guy that I'm a massive fan of. I think he's just the coolest shit there is. Neil flippin' Diamond. This is called Love at the Greek, recorded live at the Greek Theater. I don't actually know when this was recorded. I mean, it says it was released in 77, so obviously it's been before that. 76 maybe, 75, I don't know. Ironically, this album is produced by Robbie Robertson of the band, which is kind of cool. Neil has some amazing live albums, Hot August Night, which I have. There's 3 Hot August Nights, I think. But of all the Neil Diamond live albums I have, I think this one is the best by far. This is awesome. It's got the hits on it, right? Kentucky Woman, Sweet Caroline, Song Sung Blue, Holly Holy, Brother Loves Traveling Salvation Show. But then it ends with the Jonathan Livingston Seagull medley, or whatever you want to call that. This is such an incredible live record. I thankfully have seen Neil Diamond in person. I saw him around about 2014, I think. His concert I actually went to with my mom. Big Neil Diamond fan. I think he's just cool as hell. And this is a stellar live record. I mean, this is beat up jacket-wise. The records themselves are fine. I think I got this for $8 at a flea market. So, thrilled. Would love to find a cleaner copy, but, whatever. For $8, this gets a lot of airtime, I think. And the last pickup I want to talk about before I talk about HMV, I was at one of my local record stores. And this is, used to be Sunrise Records, is now an FYE, for your entertainment. Sunrise bought them in Canada. A little bit of vinyl, and then all the tchotchke movie shit, Funko head, bobblehead, lunch boxes, and all the other crap. But they do sell some vinyl. It's usually pretty good. And I was there, and I was flipping through their clearance bin, and they had Paul McCartney's Flaming Pie, the archival box sets that he's done, which I don't really care about. I don't have any of them. And nor do I care that much about Paul McCartney's solo work. There you go, Flaming Pie. However, this was in the clearance bin for $39. And I went to the counter and I said, "Are you sure this is right?" And they said, "Yeah." I grabbed it, of course. And what it contains, aside from the Obi strip that goes on the cover, the Flaming Pie album remastered. I'm thankful to actually have an original first press from 1997 when it came out, which is worth a ton. But this is the remastered repress. But then it also has this third disc, which is just home recordings. They're just the demos that Paul recorded. It's basically just him acoustically recorded on a tape recorder. So, kind of interesting. I would not have bought it because I already have Flaming Pie. I don't listen to it that often, let's be honest. A huge Beatles fan. Don't really care for their solo stuff. I like John's solo stuff, but beyond that, doesn't really interest me. However, at $29, you're stupid to pass it up. And now, as I mentioned in the intro, HMV is back in Canada, which is crazy. I mean, we really had three music stores in Canada when I was growing up in the 80s and 90s. There was HMV, there was Music World, and then there was Sam the Record Man. There was no Sam the Record Man where I lived. We only had Music World, and we had HMV. Music World died much sooner than HMV did. HMV hung around until, I want to say 10 years ago, maybe. They were in every shopping mall. They're all over the world. I think originally started in England. So when HMV closed, again, 10 years ago, whatever it was, most of I think they had about 50 locations left in Canada at that point. They were taken over by Sunrise Records. Some of those have since closed, and Sunrise is still open in some locations, and some they've switched over to the FYE banner, like where I am. But anyway, HMV was the store back in the day. Tons of CDs. I don't really remember them for vinyl because, when I started buying music from HMV in 91, 92, there was almost no vinyl there. It was all CD. Occasionally you could special order some stuff back in the day, which I did. But they were a great music store. And then they had a whole lot of movies and all that kind of stuff. Well, now HMV is back. You can go on their website. I think it's hmv.ca. You can order stuff. But HMV is back, but they're not standalone stores like they used to be. They are now, for lack of a better word, they are departments within Toys R Us. And yes, to my American friends, Toys R Us in Canada never went bankrupt. Our Toys R Us's are still going strong. In fact, Toys R Us opened more stores in Canada when they went bankrupt in the States. But anyway, the Toys R Us in my town has an HMV teak, whatever you want to call it. There's an aisle of vinyl, there's an aisle of CDs, and there's an aisle of books and movies. Didn't hear about it anywhere. They didn't seem to publicize it. But my wife happened to be at Toys R Us, and she called me. She goes, "They're selling records." And I went, "What?" And she sent me a picture, and I saw the HMV thing, and I'm like, "Wow, HMV's back." I headed right up there the next day to take a look at their selection. I have some thoughts. My first thought was they had a pretty good selection. I was surprised. I thought it was going to be all of the Taylor Swift, Olivia Rodrigo, all of the stuff, the top artists of the day. Those are all there. But there's a lot more beyond that, which I was quite surprised. No problems with their selection. I found probably 15 records I would have bought, which leads me into my second thought is, man, they're expensive. Records in Canada, new vinyl, are expensive enough. It's not uncommon to pay $40 for a new record, $60 for a new record, especially if it's 2 LP. HMV in Toys R Us is expensive. Most records started at like $50, $55 and went up from there. $50, $60, $70, $80. Expensive. So there were a bunch of albums I wanted to buy, and I looked at the price and I went, absolutely not. But I did pick up 3. It's not to say that everything was expensive. Most of it was expensive, but there was some stuff that was priced pretty good. 2 of these are not interesting by any means, but the price was right. So it's for my buddy Joe at Racer Records because I know he's a massive fan. Bryan Adams Ultimate. The only Bryan Adams record I don't have because I have everything. This is a greatest hits comp from 2017. I picked it up because there's a couple songs in here. Ultimate Love, and I don't remember what the other one is, that you can only get on this one. And it's 2 LP, and it was $39. I'm okay with $39 for 2 LP. That's a little cheaper than most double LPs in Canada these days, so I was all right paying that price. Nothing spectacular about it, but, I didn't have it, and why not? And I didn't, there hasn't been a Bryan Adams greatest hits on vinyl since So Far So Good, which was back in the early 90s, so on vinyl, this is what you got. So I'm all right with that. Not that I need a greatest hits, but if I'm not in the mood to listen to a studio album and I want to hear all the hits, here we go. This next one is also a greatest hits. Bon Jovi's Crossroad. Love Bon Jovi. Do not have many Bon Jovi records on vinyl. I have Slippery When Wet, and I have Crush, and I have the new one, Legendary. What I like about this came out in 94, so, it's got all the hits from the 80s and some of the hits from the early 90s. I'm not having any luck finding any of those albums. Like, I can't find anything after Slippery When Wet. I'm sure they're out there, but I haven't stumbled across them. But this was, $29 for 2 records. And, I'm good with this. If I ever find some of those other Bon Jovi studio albums from the late 80s, early 90s, I'll pick them up. But, this does the trick. This last one is very interesting. And I showed this on the Wednesday live stream this week. This is the Trans-Canada Highwaymen. Yes, it looks like a K-Tel record from the 70s, but that's not what it is, but that's what it's designed to look like. This is an album from 2023. And the Trans-Canada Highwaymen are basically a supergroup, much like the Highwaymen from the early 80s, Johnny Cash and Chris Christopherson and those guys. Kind of the same idea. Not country, though. This is made up of Stephen Page from the Bare Naked Ladies, Chris Murphy from Sloan, and Mo Berg from The Pursuit of Happiness, and Chris Northey from The Odds. Canadian supergroup. They've been touring for the last while, playing the songs that they respectively made famous in their groups. But what this is them covering radio hits from the 70s. So you've got stuff on here like Undone by the Guess Who, or Tonight is a Wonderful Time to Fall in Love by April Wine, Pretty Lady by Whitehouse, Rock Me Gently, Andy Kim, Carry Me by the Stampeders. All Canadian songs from Canadian radio in the 70s, covered by a modern day Canadian supergroup. And it sounds awesome. I can't believe how good this record is. So glad I picked this up, and I think it was like $29. So, am I happy to see HMV back? Sure. The records are fine. Price is a little high. So we'll see how that's going to shake out, what the longevity is like. I guess if the inventory doesn't turn, maybe they'll do Walmart style and mark it down. I don't know. We'll see what happens. But those are the highlights of my recent pickups over the last couple months. Hope you found that interesting. Let Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Thanks everybody for watching. I'll catch you on the flip side.